you might, which we know the cell, we might run into this type of side effects, which our friend just commented out of Swisscom. Technically, it's very easy to put on probes. It takes a lot of money, but you can put probes and then have a very distinct information about where all the 34 million account GSM phones are in Italy. But it's more likely that the consumer perceives is not Telecom Italia locating the consumer, but it's actually himself locating himself. So this is why Google Maps find myself, or this is why child tracking with the mom find the child works a little better with respect to collecting information on real-time traffic by means of anonymous phones, which again, I'm talking details, but this widely affect our brand awareness to the market. This widely affect the result of a niche service launch, which sidely effect might impact by side effect might impact the acceptance of the brand itself. So maybe a developer or a big brand like TomTom come with a great idea, and the thing just don't take off because in that specific time you don't want to be perceived like a carrier that traces its own customers. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but really these are on the table in the world of Web 2.0, where everybody grows its own experience and publish its own experience and share it. Ultimately, we have a billing relationship with the customer. We only have it today because I don't pay for my LinkedIn Pro account. I don't give any money to the Facebook, but I have a DSL and a mobile account which I pay for. And so we have to take the responsibility of this billing relationship with the customer and share this knowledge with the great developers that are in the world of web.
Okay, I think that, point that Ty brought up, I think, and I've seen in a lot of discussions I have with application developers, is the need for this to be a common API. It's not basically on a per operator basis, and the fact that you need to be able to turn it around in a very short time, because a lot of the developers out there have ADD. It's very much the reason why they're innovators is because they have ADD. So, but we've seen from the discussions from both Swisscom, Orange, and Telecom Italia that in getting the services working, it requires time and effort, and you've got to protect your customers. So, given this situation, is there a role for an aggregator? So I'll give you an example. Useful Networks. They basically act as a location aggregator. So they operate in Sweden, they operate in the UK, and they aggregate location information across all operators and then expose that to third-party developers. So this is a question to all panel members. Is it going to be too difficult for the application development community to work with the hundreds of operators that are out there? And will there actually appear a few aggregators rather than application developers working on an operator-by-operator initiative?
Not to single them out, but there's a company called Loopt here in Silicon Valley that has done a lot of social mapping, right? Great little company, Sequoia VC backed, and all the good stuff. And they aggregate a lot of information from carriers, right? They started with, I believe, Boost Mobile, and they went to Sprint and a couple other carriers now I'm sure they're working on. And you can kind of call them an aggregator, yep, right, of location information. And their big thing is about social mapping. So we've seen a couple of them come through. They've run through the privacy issues. They've run through the painful integration into position determinant entities inside the networks to get lat-long information. But they will be, I think, successful in aggregating a lot of that information because they're building applications. So we do see some of that happening. On the other hand, we see a lot more of the 5-person company in Poland creating services. So that 5-person company in Poland may still not work with the Loopts of the world, but it's certainly more attractive. So we do see some of that. With our customers, what we've had within Oracle has been the request to go out to these third-party application developers and make sure that there is some kind of standard that's being applied to the business process, right? Whether it be SOA, BPEL, whatever you want to call it, that there's some kind of commonality of the application development process that's going across all these developers. Because the word, ironically enough, that we hear a lot from our communication service provider customers is, help us apply discipline to the process. Whether it's an aggregator, whether it's the design process, design patterns, something so that we have some kind of common discipline. Not a standard, necessarily, but a discipline that we can actually utilize and leverage.
Francesco or Asha?
Yeah. So, I personally a big believer in aggregators and the value that they can add. One other, apart from Loopt, which is a great example, another one is ulocate or which operates this mobile widget site called where.com. In which case, what happens, they take over the relationships with the carriers, which is really hard sometimes for a very small development company to establish a business relationship with a carrier. But in this particular case, the aggregator does it, and then the third-party developers only have to work on that aggregator API, and the details of the carrier interfacing with the carrier is hidden from them, which is also very important because in a phone number case, you wouldn't even know which carrier they are located on in most cases. So I am personally a big believer in the aggregator use case.
Francesco?
Maybe there's another example which makes sense.
Is it working? Can you hear it? No? You may need to speak up. I think it's... Or is it?
In Europe...
No?
No. Take this one.
In Europe, mobile payment really didn't particularly take off. But as you know, there has been a successful aggregator in the United States, which recently, last year, has been acquired by Qualcomm, who aggregates the first banks of the United States in one carrier, and then big carrier, and then made the same approach of aggregating banks around a wallet for mobile banking and mobile payments, Java wallet, and he did it with AT&T, and then he did it with Verizon. It did something that really in Europe hasn't happened yet. Somebody trusted by the banks who developed horizontal m-banking and m-payment circular solution. This company, again, now is part of Qualcomm, is called Fireton. I think some of them heard about the story. Some of you heard about this successful story. This, in my understanding, proves that the Darwinian law shall be applied also to our business. The guys that evolve the best and are in the best scenario will evolve. The other one will not, including the carrier who made a consortium for mobile payment in Europe, who didn't go anywhere with respect to this success story of the United States. So yes, there could be nice aggregator, even not being part of big companies such as Oracle or BEA, that aggregate a single specific emergent business successfully and ultimately make the carrier happy and the customers happy.
Excellent, thank you. Unfortunately, we've reached the hard stop of 4, so thank you so much for your time, and please show your appreciation to the panelists.